Hi, in this video I just want to show you how I make my foundation chain when I'm making a long foundation chain as the start of a new blanket. So there are many different ways to do a foundation chain. This is just how I do mine, and I find it really easy. So I am going to use two separate yarns from two sources, yeah? So I pull out the center of one yarn, and I'll pull out the center from the other yarn, yeah, because this is going to be a long foundation chain. If you know how much yarn to pull out of one ball of yarn and just keep pulling, then that's fine. I don't know how to calculate it well enough to trust myself. I've done it so many times and I've always fallen short. So I just prefer to use two separate yarns, and then I know I won't have to add if I just want to make it a bit bigger or add an extra repeat. So how I do my foundation chain is I am then going to just join these yarns to my hook together as you would with just one yarn. So I've put them on my hook, yeah, and I really like this tail because I can hang on to this tail while I'm working. I like to work my foundation chain sideways, so I hang on to this, and the little knot does not show at the end when we put the border on. So I just go into, I split open these two yarns now that I'm going to work, and to start with I'm just going to go under the top yarn and pull through. Yeah, so now I am back to, sorry, I've got it there, just slipped off my hook. So here I am. This is the little knot that you don't have to worry about because it won't show at the end. And I'm working sideways now. So I'm opening my yarns, and I am going to go into the middle and under the bottom yarn. I'm going to come up and then go back into the middle. And now I'm going to finish by coming up and over the top yarn. I'm just going to do that again, and I pull through. So that's my first stitch of my foundation chain. So I start counting from that stitch. I'm going to go into the middle, under the bottom yarn, back into the middle, and under and over that top yarn. Hanging on to these ends as a guide for me. And I'm going into the middle, under the bottom yarn, coming back into the middle, and then under and over that top yarn, and then I just pull through. Yeah, a little bit tricky at the beginning to get, but I think it's a really nice, neat chain once you get going. Into the middle, under the bottom yarn, back into the middle, and up and over the top yarn, and then I will pull through. Yeah, and as I am working my foundation chain like this, sideways, I hang on to these ends, which give me a nice tension as well as I'm going. And once I have reached the number of stitches that I need, in this case I think it's about 250, what I do is I will put a stitch marker in for every 20th stitch, because, you know, life happens and we have to get up and answer the phone or something, and I really don't like counting from scratch. So I will use stitch markers for every 20th stitch, and then when I get to the end, I am going to leave really nice long ends because maybe I want to add an extra repeat. And how I fasten off is, once I'm at the end of my last stitch of my foundation row, I'm going to pull both ends through once, and I'm going to pull them through twice like that, and I will then leave these ends to be nice and long so I can make any adjustments or add. I'm going to cut them once I've left some nice long ends, and then what I'm going to do is just pull those ends through, and that's how my last stitch will look like that. So I don't tie the ends here in a knot, not at all, just have this one at the beginning. Look, you can see that it's not going to show once I put the border on, and I don't tie them at the end so that I can undo them and I can add any extra stitches or make any adjustments. Yeah, So here is a very small foundation chain that we've done, and it's important when we're going to do the next part and put in row 2 is, as you can see now, we've kind of made like a box sort of situation, because I've got more or less 4 sides as you turn it over. So it's important when you're joining and starting your next row, I'm going to put my join through here, yeah, and then all the single crochet stitches in Mosaic Crochet, they all go into the back loop only, yeah. So it's important to work the same side, because if you're working the same side, when you get to the end and you want to add your border, you've not twisted this foundation chain and worked into different sides of the foundation chain, so you will get a really neat looking border. So here is the foundation chain of this little pattern that I've been doing, and you can see clearly now this is the knot that I started with that won't show at the end because I'm going to hide that in the border, and I'm going to come to put my back border using this back stitch of my foundation chain. You can see really clearly here where it's going to go through, yeah, and I'm going to use this front part of the stitch to put my front border on my blanket at the end, yeah. So that's how the foundation chain works. And here is one that I'm doing now, 200, I think it's 250 stitches, and like I said at the end, I've left these really nice long tails. I've just pulled through and I haven't tied off, so that I can undo these at any time and add stitches if I want to do an extra repeat, or even pull back a few stitches if I've counted wrongly. Okay, so that's how I do my foundation chain for a large blanket. Thank you. Hope that was helpful.